Hello everyone, I'm Josh, and I am ranking a whole bunch of cars from best to worst. The first car is the Nissan 300Z. Not the one from the 80s, but the newer one, the newer 300. Now, I really like this car because all of those Nissan Zs, honestly, they sound really good with the right exhaust. With anything having to do with it, it's a coupe, it's Japanese, it's sporty. If you modify it, it could be really fast, and it just generally looks very good. So I'm gonna put it in B tier. A very, very good beginning for the ranking. Now, the next car is the 370Z. I really like this car. To me, it's better than the 300, not by much, but I honestly think if you're more interested in something that's more modern, I would definitely get the 370 because it's very curvy. The headlights, the taillights, the angles, to where they angle it to where it's not just a box. Because you can see how they're different, like, era to era. But I'll put it above the 300. Now the next one is a newer gen Miata. They did really good with the Miata for the newer generation because compared to the one from the 90s or the 2000s, honestly, having something that looks more like an actual sports car while looking less and less rounded and more angular, more sporty. I genuinely think it would be a really good car for someone who's just starting as an enthusiast. So I'll put it behind the 300. Now, the next one is an Aston Martin. I'll put it in A tier because it's very sporty and it looks very curvy, and I genuinely like how it gives me Shelby Cobra vibes, and I really like that. And it was probably really common to style your cars like that, but in the past. But when you compare it to modern cars on the same list, honestly, there's just something about it. Now, the next one, just a fan favorite for everyone. Not everyone, but a whole lot of people, especially people who have seen like that entire movie that's about the Countach. Putting that in the best car on the list area because that Countach is honestly so good looking that it aged so well. The car aged so well that future Lamborghinis share the same design. Now, let's look at what else is on the list. So there's the Miura. Honestly, I like it, but not as much as the Countach. It did not age as well as the Countach. Where obviously it's for the time. You know, the 60s were kind of funky. You know, everyone was on some illegal substances. But I put it in S tier. Now, the next one is the modern iteration of the Ford GT. Now, I put that in the top of S tier because it looks so good. It is kind of ironic that Ford designed theirs to look very similar to a Ferrari, though. Considering the whole Ford versus Ferrari thing. But let's go to the next part of the list. Alright, now we've got the modern iteration of the Corvette. Now, let me just say, once again, very Ferrari vibes. But I will say, GM, other than the interiors, GM is really good at making cars that, in the sport category anyway, the Camaro, the Corvette, stuff like that. Honestly, they made the Corvette look really good. Honestly, it's very distinct from other vehicles on the road, and it's relatively affordable for anyone, whether they're younger or older, that if you find a used one, like as an example, 2000s, 90s, or the modern one, you could probably get in it. Honestly, if you have enough money and you're not worried about gas, which ironically, the newer ones are actually better on gas than some vehicles because of the way that GM designed the engine. But I'm putting that in the middle of S tier, behind the GT, because the GT is quite literally like actually a not a race car, but you don't find those on the road very often. Next one we got is a Mercedes. Now, they're okay looking to me. It goes into that, like, I have a luxury car, it looks nice to me kind of category, where it's like you can respect it because it's an AMG, but to be honest, it's just not my cup of tea. I'm more of an angular sports car, supercar, econobox enjoyer kind of person. You know, I'm not really a big fan of European cars. Some, like Aston Martins, they look pretty okay. But anyway, to the next one. Now we've got a Bentley. I was never really a fan of Bentleys just because of how, like, generic they look. But then again, the newer version of it with the headlights, the taillights look kind of boring. But at the end of the day, it looks like someone took a limousine and, like, just went like, man, sports engine, sports suspension, just made a sports car out of a taxi almost. But that's going in S tier, behind the that's going in S tier behind the Corvette. Now, next one we got McLaren. But I'm putting it behind the Bentley. The next one is a Lamborghini, Murcielago. I put it behind the McLaren because honestly, the newer versions after the 80s, with Lamborghini, they kind of all start to look the same. I can still respect it, but it just doesn't look as sporty as the McLarens did. Now, the Shelby Cobra. The Shelby Cobra finally showed up, and guess what? It is going in the top of A tier. Because while I really like it, it is a really nice car. It's not as performing, in my mind anyway, as a hardtop sports car. It's cool. I'd love one. I'd love to own one. But top of A tier. Now, next car. Another McLaren. So that's going third place in A tier. It just looks too futuristic to me. Now, it probably performs really well, just like, the Cobra and all that. But it just doesn't hit as well to me. Now, next car we got is a Lamborghini Huracan. Now, every YouTuber owns a Huracan because of how absolutely cheap in perspective of, like, other cars that you could own. So, everyone's got one. And in my opinion, they just don't look that good. They look like a Lamborghini. When you think Lamborghini, that's what everyone thinks of. But I'm putting it in bottom of A tier, behind the other McLaren. Now, the next one we've got another McLaren. This time, big wing. And I'm putting it in front of the Murcielago, behind the other McLaren. Now, we've got another McLaren after the McLaren, which is very similar to the other McLaren that's in the list that's orange and black. And I'm putting it ahead of that McLaren because it shows the whole car. They look almost identical, except for one shows the whole car. So I just put it ahead because I have no prior knowledge. I don't know anything about um, high tier sports cars. It's like Need for Speed, where you start with a shit box, like not even a Golf. You start with like an IS 300, and then by the end of the game you're driving a Murcielago and a Ford GT and stuff like that. It's like I know nothing about high end sports cars because um they're not in my league, so I can only go off of what they look like. Now, anyway, next car on the list is a Ferrari. So, to me, Ferraris, honestly, compared to other sports cars, they're kind of mid to me. Anyway, the way that they look kind of mid. They look better than the generic Hurricane, but not by much. So, it is going in it's going right above the Hurricane in tier A. Okay, now we're doing the next car, which is the Carrera. I think it's the GT version by Porsche, and I'm ranking it in S tier, uh, in front of the Murcielago. So the next one is a Porsche 911, which I'm putting behind the Carrera because it is actually, in my opinion, a lot better than the Murcielago appearance-wise, because the other one just looks like a generic Lamborghini. Even though it might be faster, to me it doesn't matter. Because it's all this stuff is leagues ahead of me. But the next one is what looks to be another 911, but it's probably a different version. And in my opinion, it goes in A tier behind the Aston Martin because it kind of looks boring. Like, it looks like a Porsche. It's probably what you expect. It's a Porsche. So I put it behind the Aston Martin. Now, the next one is a Mitsubishi Eclipse from the 90s. In my opinion, I love the Eclipse, but I do think it would probably be a good beginner enthusiast car, especially if you tinker with the car and, Mitsubishi blesses you with some kind of blessing because it shares the same engine, I believe, or a similar engine. I think that's why you have to tune it, but it shares a similar engine with the Evo 9, I believe. It's the Evo 9? Something like that. But the Evo of that generation, I'm pretty sure it shares the same Mitsubishi engine. But I put it behind the 370. The next one is the Lamborghini Aventador SV. I put it behind the Murcielago just because I like how the Murcielago looks in comparison. Now, the next one is a 70s era Celica, which I love because it was back in the 70s when Japanese companies were trying to compete for similar marketing to American domestic cars. So they made it look like a 70s muscle car, but it's like super stubby, little nugget car. So I put it in the best car tier because it's something that, like, genuinely I would suggest someone to buy because it's so cute. Now, the next car is a Ford Fiesta ST/RS, a little hot hatch. So I put it in the best car tier because, honestly, I would say if you're a beginner enthusiast, buy one. Buy one and just, like, mess around with it. Because if you mess with it, honestly, just, like, get automatic or get manual, whichever one you prefer. honestly, with most cars, it's honestly probably going to be a blast to have something that has like some horsepower, or has some horsepower and weighs a certain amount, because the car will probably like the Ford Fiesta. It's such a small car that any modifications to horsepower, it's probably going to be like a go-kart. But I put it in the best car tier. And then the next car after it is the Ford Focus ST/RS. I put it in front of the Ford Fiesta because the functionality of having basically almost a crossover slash SUV um, hatchback, but with like a sporty touch to it. So the next one is a Camaro, whichever, like V6, SS, doesn't matter what trim. Um, I personally love the Camaro, so I have a slight bias. So I put it in the best car tier behind the Countach. The next one is a Ford Mustang 2015 plus generation. Personally, I am very mixed to it. I started out first hating the new gen Mustang, but I mean, I still wouldn't buy one, but because I have such a bias for like 2005 through 2009 gens that honestly I don't really like what they look like. I mean, I respect that other people like how they look because they do look aggressive. It's just not my body style that I like. Because I like the 2000s like boxy, like big big headlights, fog lights on the front that are circular in the grill. That sort of stuff is like really attractive to me in a Mustang because it reminds me of the older Mustangs. But I liked it, so I put the Mustang behind the Camaro in the list in not S, in the best car ranking. Now the next one is a Dodge Viper, the newer gen Dodge Viper, luckily not the older ones, because those were literal death traps. I mean, not saying the newer ones aren't, because luckily they have probably maybe air conditioning and basic traction control. But I I put it in S tier in front of the Corvette. Now the next car in the list is a Dodge Neon SRT4. Now, let me be honest. I love a sleeper car, or a car that's like an underdog. So I put it in the best car tier list because if you own one, it's probably easy to work on if you can afford it, which you probably were able to in the past. Not anymore because people caught on to it, but I put it in front of the Mustang, but behind the Camaro because I love me a Camaro. Um, oh wait, I put it in front of the Camaro even, so behind the Countach. Then I put the next car, which is the Nissan S13. I put it in B tier behind the 300Z. Then the next one is D tier, which is a Prius, the newer gen Prius. It's not a bad car, but it's just it gets you places. Now the next one is the fan favorite, which is the 350Z. So I put it in front of the 370 personally because I like how the 350 looks more than the 370. The 370 looks like a modern iteration of the 350, obviously, but there's just something about how the lines and the taillights and the headlights and everything that complements the body style. Now, the next one is I'm not sure what car it is, but I feel like it goes in S tier. behind the white McLaren. Now the next one is an R33. Not everyone knows it, but it's almost the underdog that got kind of not the underdog, but like the cousin, the biological sibling, like the brother or sister of the R32 and R34 and R35 that kind of just like got forgotten for some reason in terms of like popularity, even though it is a very, I bet, very quick and powerful and good looking car. So I put it in almost the top behind the Ford GT in S tier. Now, the next car is the Nissan Fairlady Z, just like the old one. And we're talking like Wonga and Midnight, like Devil Z. So I put that in, fittingly enough, with all of the Z's. You have the 300, the Grandpa Z, and then the fucking S13. So we did that. So then there's another McLaren to add to like the 20 McLarens in the list, and I thought it looked pretty okay, so I put it with the white McLaren. Now, then there's I believe it's another McLaren, but I honestly liked how this one looks, so I put it up with the Viper. Then the next one is a Pagani Zonda, looks like a race car basically. So I put it above the Ford GT. It's the top of S tier. Now the next one is a very, in my opinion, very nice looking Porsche, very smooth. So I put that in A tier above the normal looking Porsche from before. Now there's another 911 Porsche, and I put that above the Murcielago. Now there's a Dodge Charger, which in my opinion is kind of, it has a very bad reputation. It's kind of slow. I'm not a fan that they changed it from being a coupe in the older times to being a four-door sedan. Like, it's cool that it has a V8, but there's a lot of other vehicles that are better at having a V8. Like, yeah, it has a lot of power, but it also weighs a lot, so it's kind of like, it's like a wannabe muscle car, where it's like it tries so hard to be a muscle car that it kind of fails, because at the end of the day, useful for police, but like on the road, it's like driving a Crown Vic. It's cool, but it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb on the road, which for some people who like attention is good, but I put it behind the Mercedes. So the next one is, I believe, the R34. So I took the R34 and I put it in the top of B tier, cuz it's at the end of the day, it's when Nissan was just kind of experimenting with cars, and what ended up happening is the community went like, man, you can modify this to make it really powerful, but at the end of the day, it is just a Nissan. If you don't do anything to it, it is kind of, it's cool. I like how it looks. Very powerful. But the 34 is not beating a Zonda, okay? The GTR is not beating like a McLaren F1 or whatever, unless it's actually like built. And even then, it's like trying to build a V6 Mustang to beat the GT. Like, yeah, if you build it, it'll be strong. It'll be strong, but is it going to be as reliable as the GT? No. Is it going to be as powerful as the GT? Maybe. But then again, that's why you just buy a GT. Anyway, The next one is a BMW. I'm not really a big fan of BMWs. They look really boring to me. They might be fast, but they just look really freaking boring. So I put it in C tier, above the Charger, because it's better than a Charger. I would literally own anything other than a Charger. But the sad thing is that the only reason I put the Prius lower than the Charger is because with the Charger, at least you can like have some fun. You know, you have a V8, you can enjoy the sound of the V8. But honestly, if it was not a tier list, honestly, I would just buy a Prius, man. You get better gas mileage and more storage. Honestly, you're better off just getting a Prius. But I put the BMW above the Mercedes because honestly, I would much rather have the BMW than the Mercedes. Now, the next car is another BMW, I'm pretty sure. Now, I put that below. No. I put that above the other BMW. Now, there's another BMW. They just put three BMWs in front of each other. Now, it's an orange BMW. Personally, it looks a little bit more vanilla, more boring. Like, comparing vanilla ice cream to like rainbow sherbet. It's like, there's other flavors that I would much rather have, and that BMW is exactly that. So I put it under the other two BMWs. Now, as it turns out, there are actually four BMWs in a row. So this one is actually an older gen BMW. Not super old, but honestly, I like it. So I will put it in. I will put it above the new gen Miata because honestly, it's a little not as reliable, but you know, you don't buy a luxury car and expect you know, not to have to pay luxury costs. But the next car is a Veneno. I think it's a Lamborghini Veneno. But I like how it looks. Honestly, it's very aggressive, but also like it fits that sort of, you know, trying to be a race car but still kind of street legal look. And I put it behind the Zonda. The next one is, you guessed it, Lamborghini again, but it looks a little bit better than um it looks a little bit better than the Porsche, so I put it above the Porsche in A tier. The next car is a Bugatti, which honestly the Bugatti actually also, just like the Veneno, is like very sporty looking. Not as sporty, but I put it relatively high up in third place on S tier. Now the next one is a Mazda race car, which we already know how race car looks get you. Top of S tier in second place behind the Zonda. And then I believe that's a McLaren race car, right? I'm pretty sure that's a McLaren race car. I love how it looks. So I'm putting it third place in S tier. Now the next one is, I believe, a prototype by Toyota, which ended up, I'm pretty sure, turning into the Supra. So I'm gonna rank them relatively similar. So I put it top in B. And then the next one is the Toyota Supra. So I put it behind the Concept because honestly, the Concept looks a lot sportier than what we got. Now, the next one is a newer gen Civic. Honestly, it's kind of okay. I put it above the Charger, but mostly because it's more sportier and I would much rather have one than a Charger. Now the next one is a Lexus sedan, I'm pretty sure. Either a sedan or a coupe. I can't be certain. But I don't know much about these cars, but honestly, It's pretty okay. In my opinion, it's pretty okay. I put it above the BMW. In I put it above the BMW in B. So the next one is a Lexus Coupe. I know for certain because of the body type of it. It's a coupe. I put it above the GTR in, or did I? No, I put it behind the GTR in B in Oh, my mouth dry. I put it uh behind the GTR in B tier. The next one is, oh, I'm not even sure. I don't even know what car it is, but it kind of gave me like NPC vibes, so I just kind of put it in C tier. Like it's okay. It's okay. So I put it with the BMWs and the Civic. I put it next to the Civic. Now the Lamborghini Urus. So I put that in the worst car on the list. And then the Ferrari hatchback weird monster creature abomination. I put that in E, which honestly for me would probably be E for extinct. Cause I would put that thing out of its misery, honestly. But it's not as bad as like the weird like blob SUV thing that like every car company is doing. Anyway, the next car is an Aston Martin. I'm pretty sure that's, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an Aston Martin coupe. Honestly, I like how it looks, so I put it above the Hurricane. Now the next one is also an Aston Martin coupe, but I didn't like it as much as the other Aston Martin, so I put it behind it. Now the next one is, I believe it's a Jaguar. Like, they're cool cars, but they're kind of like, weirdly enough, kind of like entry level luxury cars where it's like it's like they don't really look good. They look okay, but honestly, I would much rather buy something else. So I put it in C tier with the Mercedes and the other weird car. Now the next one is, I'm pretty sure, also an Aston Martin, but it's an older Aston Martin. So I put it with the other Aston Martin classic. You know, there's like a line of 3 classics in A. So Aston Martin was on a roll with the top 3 of A tier. Now, the next one is, I believe that's a Toyota GT86 or GR86, something like that. And I honestly thought it was good, but not overly good. So I kind of just put it in B tier with the S13. Now the other one is this thing. I would ride this hot rod esque vehicle with no roof. You know, probably a death trap, but you know, I put it with the rest of the cars in A tier in the top. Now, this next one is, I'm not even really sure what it is, but I thought it was okay. So I just kind of put it where I wanted to in a B tier. You know, I thought it was okay, so I put it with the Fair Lady Z and the 300Z. Now the next one is this like Subaru SUV hatchback wagon thing. I thought it was kind of cool, so I put it with the 350Z. Now the next one is this kind of blob car. I don't know. It's like a sedan, but also kind of not. I don't even know what it is, but I put it with the Jaguar. Now the next one is, oh my goodness, it's a Ute. Honestly, one of the best inventions of humanity has been mixing a normal car with a truck bed. so I put it in best car on the list. This next one is a I think it's Vauxhall Monero, and I put it in I put it in B tier, I believe. Yeah, I put it in B tier with the Miata. Now the next one is oh my goodness, it's the fugly car. I can't even remember what it is. I can't even remember what it's called. It's that forgettable, but it's the ugly. It's the ugly, but it's not as ugly. So I just put it with the Prius. I put it lower than the Prius. The Prius is appealing to look at. Now the next one is the Pontiac Aztec. Honestly, people hate on this car so much for its looks, but there are worse cars to own than the Aztec. The Aztec to me genuinely looks good. I don't know what people are on about, but basically I put it in B tier with the Miata. In the lowest thing of B tier. Now the next one is a Pontiac Firebird. I believe the Trans Am because it has the bird on the hood. So I put that in best cars on the list. I believe I put it in front of the Ute. The next car is another Lexus. Thought it was kind of boring, so I put it. I thought it was kind of boring, so I put it. I put the Lexus in D tier. The next car is the Lexus LFA, which honestly I think is a really really cool car. So I put it in. I put it in high B tier behind the concept car for the Supra. Now the next one, I am not sure. I can't remember what it is, but it is I believe it's the Lexus. I can't remember if it's I can't remember the name. I cannot remember the name for the life of me, but it's basically the most reliable Lexus slash Toyota. So I put it honestly, I put it relatively high on the list. I put it behind the GTR, the 34. Now the next one is, I believe that's the BMW Z4. I put it third place on B tier. Now the next one is the Toyota Celica, like the four-wheel drive version, I'm pretty sure. And honestly, I like that so much that I put it in top tier in the B tier. Now the next one is another BMW. I can't remember if it's a Z4, but it's the Roadster version. And I didn't really like it that much because I don't really like convertibles. But I put it behind the Mercedes. Now the next one is, I believe that's a Honda CRX. I honestly like the older Hondas. So I put it relatively well in B tier. With along with that like Lexus from earlier. Now the next one is the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. I believe it's either the 8, the 8 or 9, but I like it, so I put it in I believe B tier. Yeah, I put it in B tier with the Celica. Now the next one is, I believe that's Honda Integra slash Acura Integra, I believe. I believe it is. With the JDM front, I think. So I put that third place in B tier. Now the next one is a Toyota Corolla 11, no headlights of the 80s Corollas. I think it's okay. It's not really the best. So I kind of just put it like top of C. The next is the NA Miata, the one that like every hairdresser, every beginner enthusiast like drools about for some reason. I don't know why, but Cool pop-up headlights and convertible is very appealing to like apparently like 70% of people in the world. Don't check me on that, but I put it above the Aztec. It's kind of okay. Not as good as the newer gen Miata in my opinion. Like cool pop-ups, but you know, eh. Now the next one is the Toyota MR2, not the Spider, but the normal MR2 with the severe what do you call it, like snap turning, where you know you'll turn the car and then the whole car just spins out. So I put that in B tier with I put it in B tier with the 300Z. Now the next one is the Dodge Daytona. Honestly, I really like the Daytona, but in terms of other cars, it's really good, but I've got to put it behind the Mustang cuz it's really cool, but modern vehicles are better in some ways. Now, um honestly, uh all right, the next one is the R34. Not the next one is the R32 GTR. So, I put that in high B tier. No wait, I put the R32 GTR in high B tier with the Evo. Now the next one is the R35 GTR. So I like it, but in my opinion it does not look as good as the 32, so I put it behind the R32. Now the next one is whatever car this is. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a Holden or if it's some other brand of car from that generation, but I thought it was okay, so I put it in C tier, in top of C tier. The next one is the FD RX-7. Honestly, I like the RX-7, but it's actually, in my opinion, it's a great car. Just not for the driver. You're going to be paying through the roof trying to fix this thing every time that it's going to be in your garage more than you drive it. So, I put it behind the LFA cuz it's cool but kind of impractical. The next one is the S15, which honestly, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Nissan S family. You know, it's cool. It's really cool. But I put it behind the MR2. The next one is the Honda S2000. It's a cool little convertible. It kind of falls in a similar category as like the Miata. It's cool. It's a convertible. Not really a big fan, but there's a fan base around it. Lots of mods probably. Put it behind the S15 though. Now the next one is the Dodge Challenger, specifically the newer gen one, because that's what they have on the list. And honestly, it's okay. It falls in a similar category as the Charger though, where it's very heavy, lots of horsepower. Wrong hands can cause an accident. Lots of takeovers with them and stuff like that. It's just I'm not really a big fan of it. Like I like how it looks. It sounds really good. I really love how it looks. I love the old school styling. I would put it higher. It's just there's so many better cars to buy than that, especially for the price of it. So I ended up just putting it with the CRX. Now the next one is the AE86 Corolla. Honestly, stock kind of mid. Honestly, pretty weak. Honestly, stock. They're only good if you modify them, which if they weren't so expensive, if they were still to where like the 2000s where you could buy one for $500, honestly, I see why the culture built so big around them because it's a shit box. It's just a Corolla. That's how everyone saw it, was just a Corolla. Like, there's nothing special about it. But the aftermarket and modifying and stuff like that, because it's a Toyota, hella reliable, no real problems. But I just put it with the S2000 because it unmodified. It's just eh. Now the next one is the Subaru, I believe WRX or STI. I'm not really sure, but it's the newer gen. I put it up with the GTR, like the R35, because it's cool. JDM, 4-wheel drive probably. Next one is the 90s Supra, which honestly kind of overrated, but honestly I just like how it looks. I like the it's very different to other cars at the time that honestly I would probably buy one if it was really cheap. But I put it behind the 35. Now the next one is I believe a Ferrari F1, which honestly it's a Ferrari, but it has more to it than the other Ferrari, so I put it in front of it. Now the next one is the BMW M1. This thing, if more BMWs were built like this, I would buy one. I would genuinely buy one if more of them were built like this. Like, I would make that my life goal to buy that car. So I put it in front of the Countach. It's just the Countach, but BMW'd. It's quite literally like the doppelganger of the Countach. So I put it in the best car ranking. And then the next one is very generic BMW. So I put it with the BMWs because it looks like every other BMW on the list, but it has some vents on the front bumper, so it looks kind of better than other ones. So I put it higher up with the BMWs in C tier. And that's it.